The Marines here today are cut from the same cloth as those who seized Tarawa, withstood the cold of Korea, and fought through the streets of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan. And the next fight is coming. Trust me, it's coming. Across battlefields, our character has never wavered. Just as the nature of war, the clash of wills, the test of fortitude, the demand for discipline remains the same. To our Marines here today and around the world, I could not be more proud of you.
Well, Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea have sharply increased their use of artificial intelligence to mount cyber attacks against the United States. That's according to new research from Microsoft released today. The findings show foreign adversaries are adopting new innovative tactics in efforts to weaponize the internet as tools for espionage. This July, the company identified more than 200 instances of foreign AI cyber attacks. That's more than double the number from July 2024 and more than 10 times the number seen in 2023.
And with space security a priority for the Trump administration, the Aerospace Corporation is also working on tech to ensure our adversaries can't purposely knock out our satellites. The CEO of the Aerospace Corporation says that the biggest risk the United States faces in space is a Pearl Harbor of sorts, where a hostile country takes out communications and imaging satellites before launching an attack on Earth.
There are others that have more nefarious aims in what they want to do in space. So we've got to be very candid with ourselves that space will be such an environment. We've got to be prepared to defend ourselves. We got to be prepared to win in such an environment. And ultimately, at the end of the day, other nations would see us in such a strong position that they would be deterred from trying to take on the U.S.
Dan Bowens, what do you know so far?
Well, Rosanna and Kurt, some security experts are saying they've never seen a network as extensive as this before. And this morning, the Secret Service revealing a major security bust right here in New York, a covert network of devices capable of shutting down cell service right as the UN General Assembly is underway. Unclear if those two things are connected, but it is a possibility. And we have brand new images into our newsroom this morning. These are the devices federal agents say could have disabled cell towers and essentially shut down the cellular network in New York City. That's worth repeating. Federal agents this morning announcing they located multiple devices capable of shutting down cell service in the city. Massive implications, of course. Here are the details as we know them. Inside several locations, agents found thousands of networked cellular devices. That's how they describe them, concentrated within 35 miles of the UN General Assembly, of course, now underway here in New York. President Trump in the city this morning. Officials say the system allowed anonymous, encrypted communications between criminal and foreign actors and could have caused massive disruption to government and emergency communications. Some experts say this network could have sent as many as 1 million text messages a minute, potentially disrupting all kinds of issues here. The special agent in charge of the Secret Service New York field actually put out a video just a few minutes ago, and take a look at what he says here.
This network had the potential to disable cell phone towers and essentially shut down the cellular network in New York City. These devices were concentrated within 35 miles of the global meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, now underway in New York City. Given the timing, location, and proximity, and potential for significant disruptions to the New York telecom system, we moved quickly to disrupt this network.
And again, that is the special agent in charge of the New York field office of the Secret Service. So how did this all start? The Secret Service says the investigation actually began in the spring. So a couple months ago, after what they described as imminent telecommunications threats were directed at senior U.S. officials. Well, with the help from federal, state, and local partners, including the NYPD, the network was traced to the tri-state area. A forensic examination of data equivalent to about 100,000 cell phones now underway. What does that mean? It means they're taking a look at 100,000 cell phones, trying to get to the bottom of this thing. The early analysis showing links between foreign networks and individuals already known to federal law enforcement. Now, at this point, we want to emphasize no arrests have been announced. Possible they could have happened, not yet been made public. The agency calls this an open and active investigation.
Is China a threat? And should the UK be worried about cyber attacks? In a word, yes. This is the National Cybersecurity Centre's annual review, and it talks about the cyber threat to the UK, with China listed first. China is described as a highly sophisticated and capable threat actor. Russia, Iran and North Korea, they are also called out as nation-state threats. There are also criminals causing cyber incidents, and actually, to give you a scale of the challenge, the review talks about how there has been a 50% jump in the last year compared to a year earlier in highly significant cyber incidents. That's 18 cases in total, which have had an impact on central government, large chunks of the population, essential UK services, or the UK economy. Think the cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover, on Marks and Spencer, on the Co-op and on Harrods, just to name 4 serious incidents.
Cybercrime is one of the greatest threats to our economy, to our businesses, and to the livelihoods of our workers.
The head of the NCSC gave a speech today where he called upon all companies, big and small, the leaders of businesses, to make sure they are prepared for cyber attacks. He says it's not a question of if an attack is happening, it's a question of when it happens and whether you're prepared. And he asks the question, do you have a plan for if the screens go blank? And if you don't, then it's time to act.
Now, this space security is a top priority for President Trump. There's one company, it's called the Aerospace Corporation, that's working with government and private companies to be first responders for orbit.
Hey there, Stu. Well, the Aerospace Corporation is often the one that gets the call when something goes wrong with a satellite. And to troubleshoot, you need a big ol' eye in the sky. This is Aerotel, one of the most complex and configurable telescopes in the world, and its main purpose is to track satellites and other objects in space, and there is a lot up there to track. According to figures from the European Space Agency, the number of objects in orbit has been on a rapid rise, with the number of satellites launched in just the past few years surpassing the number launched in the previous history of the space age. As Earth's orbit gets increasingly crowded, the Aerospace Corporation is developing technology to make sure satellites don't crash into each other, creating debris that can then wreak havoc on other satellites. To prepare for a potential conflict out in space this week, the Aerospace Corporation has been hosting a war games exercise called Spoonbender, and it utilizes artificial intelligence to help those on the ground make decisions faster.
And in a shocking revelation about last year's cyber espionage campaign by Chinese hackers in the US, it has now come to light that hackers may have stolen information from nearly every American, including President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. Reports say a joint investigation by US and UK officials reveals that the Chinese hacking group Salt Typhoon targeted more than 80 countries and may have accessed data from nearly every American. Investigators also found that Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance may also have been targeted during their election campaign last year. They say the cyber attack goes much deeper than initially predicted and was part of a years-long coordinated effort. The hack was designed to give China the capability to identify and track communication and movements of their targets across the globe. In December last year, a U.S. official was quoted by Reuters saying that metadata of large number of Americans had been stolen in the sweeping cyber espionage campaigns carried out by Chinese hacking group Salt Typhoon. While the official declined to provide specific figures, he noted that 9 telecommunications companies were added to the list of entities compromised by a hacking group dubbed Salt Typhoon.